After the break in London, a fine and social media ban for the TikTok prankster who's caused widespread outrage. Tonight, we're ready to forgive our son's killer. The family of schoolboy Jimmy Mizzen speak of their pain as his murderer is set to be released from prison.
I'd love to meet him. I would love to know why he's this angry young man, why he had a need to do all the things that he did. You know, you've got two boys who lived in the same area. One so beautiful and one so unkind.
Also ahead, the grandmother who was knocked down by a royal escort dies in hospital. Her family tell us they want justice. Plus,
you got a nice dog.
A social media ban for the TikTok prankster who's caused outrage on the streets of London. And
it's warmer than some parts of southern Spain here at Kew Gardens, so I've renamed it Costa del Kew. And yes, I have started whinging. For me, this is hot.
Good evening. His parents say they knew this day would come, but the imminent release of Jimmy Mizzen's killer after 14 years in prison has brought back painful memories for the schoolboy's family. Jimmy was 16 years old when he was attacked by Jake Faris with a glass dish in a South London bakery in 2008. His family have told us that despite the wrongs of the past, they are now prepared to forgive his killer and could even meet him. They've been speaking to Helen Holland.
The night before Jimmy was killed, it was his birthday, and Barry and I held him tight and we told him how much we loved him and how proud we were of him.
Jimmy Mizzen bled to death when Jake Faris threw a glass tray at him at a bakery near his home in Lee. Found guilty of murder, he is now due to be released after serving 14 years in prison. Jimmy's parents knew this day would come, but it's brought back their pain.
It's almost a second bereavement in a sense. Just reliving the whole thing over again.
We had a feeling he'd get parole, but it's all the emotions of May the 10th came back, and it was a horrible feeling. And I just think it just brought all the memories of our lovely Jimmy back, what happened to him.
Despite his wrongs, they say they're prepared to forgive his killer.
If he wanted to meet you face to face and apologise, would you meet him face to face?
That would be a family decision.
Yeah. I think, we've always talked that, I remember in the early days thinking I'd love to meet him. I would love to know why he's this angry young man, why he had a need to do all the things that he did. You know, you've got two boys who lived in the same area. One so beautiful and one so unkind. So I'd love to know, but there's been a lot of pain in our family, I can't lie to you.
What would you want out of that conversation?
There are unanswered questions. Perhaps about him, about his upbringing, about his life. I don't really know. Perhaps there will be some clarity for us. Why do some people behave the way they do? It may even help us manage a little bit more if we have a bit more information about the person who did this to our son.
We don't need to think about Jake, but we do need to think about Jimmy, and we will never forget him, and we will never let this world forget him either.
Jimmy's parents channeled their grief into positivity, setting up a foundation in his memory. This weekend, they're holding a 23-mile sponsored walk that they do every year from Richmond to Tower Bridge. They also share his story in London schools as they try to promote the good in young people. The answer to violence, they say, is not harsher punishment.
Anyone now found guilty under those similar circumstances gets an automatic life sentence, but minimum tariffs of 25 years starting point, because that will solve it, won't it? And obviously it doesn't, because 2 years ago in London was an absolute record year of young people being killed by other young people. There were 30. You've increased all this punishment, and the incidences have gone up. So I think we deceive ourselves by thinking ever harsher punishment will change. It will not. All ever harsher punishment will do is ever harsher punish, and some people might be happy with that. For us, it's about change. Where do you get the change?
His family told me how Jimmy used to sparkle. Despite that being extinguished by his killer, they still choose forgiveness, peace and hope.
Helen, Jimmy's family have long campaigned for youngsters to drop their weapons. Where are we now compared to back then in terms of knife crime killings?
Well, we have been taking a look at those figures, so let me just talk you through them now. So there were 29 victims aged between 13 and 19 years old in 2008, and the latest figures show that last year there were 14. Now, look, that may sound better, but campaigners say that by no means translates to the problem going away. You know, look, the number of fatal stabbings in England and Wales is at its highest level since records began more than 76 years ago. And, you know, campaigners say we're still facing a knife crime epidemic. Now, the way forward, Jimmy's parents believe, as we heard in my report, is not extending the minimum period that you're going to go to prison for. It's about early intervention and understanding why young people reach that stage. And it's why they use what they call their Jimmy courage to share their story and try and prevent other needless deaths.
They've always been remarkable. Helen, thank you very much. Next tonight, tributes are being paid to an 81-year-old grandmother who died 2 weeks after being hit by the police motorcycle which was escorting Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Helen Holland from Essex was rushed to hospital after being hit in Earl's Court on the 10th of May. ITV News can reveal her family are blaming the police and say they want justice. Mahathir Pasha is where the crash happened for us. Mahathir, you've been speaking to Helen's son, haven't you?
That's right, Duncan. I have been speaking to the family of 81-year-old Helen Holland. They confirmed the tragic news to me yesterday that she has now died. They say she suffered from multiple broken bones and massive internal injuries, and ultimately it was irreversible damage caused to her brain, which meant that she passed away at around 5:30 p.m. yesterday. In a statement shared with ITV News, Miss Holland's son Martin is adamant his mother was using a safe route on a pedestrian crossing here in Earl's Court before she was struck down by a police motorbike which was transporting the Duchess of Edinburgh just days after the King's coronation. The word the family used to describe the way they are feeling now is angry, as they try to hold somebody to account for this death. They say they're angry that someone so pure and kind was caught up in this situation. Very strong words here from Martin, Miss Holland's son, who points the finger at the police and says the police killed my mum. He says the police are yet to issue any form of apology to the family. The statement goes on to read that the police must be answerable to the law and ordinary people should not be expendable to protect the chosen few. Now, the Independent Office for Police Conduct says there is an ongoing investigation, though it's in its early stages, and you'll be able to see here from this big sign behind me, they are appealing to witnesses to come forward with potential evidence. The Met have also shared their condolences. They acknowledge the ongoing IOPC investigation and say they'll continue to do everything they can to support it. And Buckingham Palace have also issued a statement today. A spokesperson said the Duchess of Edinburgh is deeply saddened to hear that Helen Holland has passed away. Her Royal Highness's deepest condolences and sympathies go to all of Miss Holland's family. We understand that the Duchess will be in touch in some capacity with Miss Holland's family privately at some point today.
Mahathir in Earl's Court, thank you. A man who bragged about getting away with it after being acquitted of murdering a woman 30 years ago has been found guilty. David Smith killed Sarah Crump, an escort, in 1993 and went on to commit an almost identical murder 6 years later. A Met police officer has been jailed for 30 months after being found guilty of sexually abusing a child. PC Farhan Gadiali committed the offence while off duty in 2019. The 44-year-old, who was attached to West Central Command, was suspended from duty in December 2020. And Neil Coyle, MP for Bermondsey and Old Southwark, has had the Labour whip reinstated. It was withdrawn in February 2022 after he was found to have used abusive language with racial overtones towards a British Chinese journalist. A TikTok prankster from Hackney has been fined and banned from filming people without their consent for social media after causing havoc on the streets of London. 18-year-old Bakari Bronze Agaro, who goes by the name of Mizzy, appeared at Thames Magistrates earlier. Daniel Henry is there for us now. Daniel, take us through what he's accused of doing.
Well, in effect, he's accused of being a nuisance. That's the tone of this criminal behaviour order that's been given to him here at Thames Magistrates Court, which bans him from doing a lot of things. 2 years from making social media videos without getting the permission of people who are in those videos. 2 years from banning from getting people who could be. If I just have a look at this here. He's also banned from making content without permission, banned from trespass, banned from school visits unannounced, effectively banned from making the kinds of videos that got him in court in the first place. Videos like this, where you can see him picking up a dog, running off with it, running away from the owner and making that owner wonder, where on earth are you going with this dog, giving them a lot of concern, a lot of stress. And it's that kind of distress that led to people effectively complaining and him ending up in court. Now, he apologised to the people who were in those videos. We're told that he was very remorseful, and the judge did take that into account. But when he left court, we could see that he was playing for the cameras again, waving at reporters as they stood here waiting to see him, waiting to capture what was going to happen here. And I suppose in effect now we have to wait and see if he really means those apologies that he put forward to the people who were affected by these videos. And he's out now, so we'll see what happens next.
Daniel Henry, thank you very much. Give us our fees back. The message tonight from more than 3,000 students at a top London university who are demanding compensation for having their education severely disrupted during the COVID pandemic. Despite closing facilities and having their lessons moved online, students at UCL were expected to pay fees of £10,000 or more per year. Now, a large group of them have taken their fight to the High Court. Anila Dami has been listening to their stories.
We were supposed to get a world-class education at London's global university, and instead we sat in front of computers locked in room for an entire year.
David Hammond is among thousands of University College London students taking legal action against the institution, arguing they didn't get the in-person tuition or access to facilities they paid for, and that the university contractually promised because of the COVID pandemic and strikes. And they want compensation.
I paid for accommodation, I moved to London expecting this in-person tuition, but for about a year and a half it was really just on a Zoom call. Most people's screens were turned off, it wasn't really a meaningful dialogue with the lecturers.
It's the first case of its kind to reach the High Court, where over 3,000 former and current UCL students are bringing a claim. UK students at the university can pay up to £10,000 in tuition fees per year. And fees can rise to £25,000 as international students pay significantly more. 2020 to 2021 claimants could get a payout of £5,000 each. In the preliminary hearing, the students' lawyer claimed UCL owed a duty to provide in-person tuition and physical access to facilities, and they feel cheated for not getting what they bargained for, while the university increased tuition fees. But UCL's lawyer argued students should first use the university's internal complaints procedure and that the claims needed more detail. In a statement, UCL say during some periods of lockdown, universities were not permitted to offer teaching and learning as usual, and instead universities adjusted quickly and creatively to ensure students could learn and graduate, and that they cannot comment on individual institutions and cases.
I think the opportunity for students to have their claims heard in court, in front of a competent judge, senior master, is, essential really for them getting their access to justice.
Lawyers running the case against UCL say over 100,000 students from 18 UK universities, including UCL and 6 other London universities, have signed up to bring legal action. A judgment is due at a later date and will impact thousands of students. Anila Dami, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme, Mr Motivator will be here to tell us about his latest fitness campaign, and
we have got a feast for you here at Kew Gardens. Lustful plants, plants that smell of fizzy drinks, and beautiful laburnum with loads of bumblebees, and of course the weather, all very soon.
But first, let's head to Thamesmead, where a new community cafe has opened its doors to give young people with learning disabilities a chance to shine. Camouflage Cafe was set up by a couple who say they've noticed that challenging behaviours come as a result of not having anything to do. To help, they're giving jobs to many who are keen to work elsewhere in the future. Cafe Pata was invited down.
Siblings Aidan and Angelina both have special needs. They may be different from most of us, but that hasn't stopped them from doing a normal job.
You're welcome. Yes, I've learnt barista skills and teamwork skills.
The pair are based here in the Camouflage Cafe in South London, which aims to give young people with disabilities a working chance in the workplace.
I think having something like this gives everybody a license to say, look, come and see what it's like. They're just like everybody else. You don't have to tiptoe around them. They can give you tea, coffee, sandwiches like everybody else.
So you put that in the middle.
Angelina and Aidan are no doubt privileged to be in work, but the reality is there are many others like them struggling simply to get their foot in the door. There's approximately 1.5 million people in England with learning disabilities. Latest figures show that of that number, only 5% are in paid work.
Okay, yeah.
The hope now is that projects such as these will show that the Angelinas and Aidans of this world, well, they too have what it takes. Cafe Pata, ITV News, Greenwich.
Sport, and Frank Lampard has spoken of the difficulties of being a manager during this era as he gave his last press conference as caretaker manager of Chelsea. Ahead of the Blues' clash with Manchester United tomorrow, Lampard said a career in management was more uncertain than ever.
You wonder how successful always it is to change in those things. So, but yeah, it's clear that it's become that kind of a job and a situation. And there are many teams that are fighting possibly with expectations that might not be exactly stable. So that bit is hard, and we're in a very reactionary world anyway. So I think in years gone by, the reaction of 1, 2, 3 defeats or whatever it might be would have been different. Now we have this sort of explosion very quickly, and I think you just have to understand that when you're doing this job.
Frank Lampard there. The ITV News continues at 6:30. Here's a look ahead now with Mary.
Coming up on the programme, Boris Johnson ditches his government-appointed lawyers for the COVID inquiry. It follows the handing over of the former Prime Minister's diaries to police, which allegedly revealed more pandemic rule-breaking. Also ahead, inflation falls to single figures for the first time in months, but food prices are still worryingly high, and it could yet mean further rises in interest rates. And it is the end of sharing passwords for Netflix accounts. But will the crackdown help boost subscribers? Well, join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, our guest tonight is a bit of a TV superstar, and you won't need more of an introduction than this.
Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Sweep the hands forward. Don't touch. Remember, as you squeeze forward, make sure you can feel it in the chest. Shoulders as you take it back. Come on. Heel to the backside again. Uta. Ha, ha, ha. Here we go. 3, 2, 8 more for luck.
Mr. Motivator rose to fame in 1993 with his live fitness workouts on GMTV, and now he's on a mission to help people who don't find it so easy to exercise, and I'm delighted to say he joins me now. I remember that on GMTV. That wasn't GMTV,
no,
but
wasn't.
I remember if I saw it, I knew I was late for school. So you were good for so much more than fitness. But listen, you're here to talk about something much more important, aren't you, which is a really different kind of fitness campaign.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, the one thing we all tend to forget about the blind people, you know, the only time we remember the blind is when we see a stick or a dog.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to realise that there's millions of people in this country who would love to have access to sporting activities, to exercise and stuff like that. Now, you know, there's some research that's been done by the Royal National Institute for the Blind, and they've created this online hub. And this hub is a place that people who are blind or partially blind can go to get information about how you maybe want to cycle, how you can become a cyclist, the importance of having a buddy who could actually share that kind of journey with you. And on this hub, we've actually created lots of things. We've got people who have gone through difficulty of actually coping with being blind. And what they've done is they've actually formed this relationship with other people. So, for example, they have tandem cycling, that when they go swimming, they have someone who's there to guide them. But we must remember this, that a blind person, all the other senses come alive and they're heightened. So what have I done? I've put together a whole range of exercises, right, that the blind person can actually do. And for me, that was an exceptional journey because I had to learn how to actually speak much slower, deliver. You can't just describe the activity by saying a bicep curl, please do it. You have to make
because
sure
they're not seeing the action.
Because not seeing the action. Whereas when I speak to someone who can see, I do the action, they know exactly what it is and they register and do it. So this whole campaign is to ensure that people see sport differently. And those 3 words are really important. Because if you were to put that in now into Google, it will take you to the hub where you can actually get access to all this activity, which allows you as a blind person to increase your independence, right, to actually socialize and have more friends, to be successful, which in turn is going to make you feel better about yourself.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Sport is so sociable as well. You can do it with a companion. I suppose that, people might think in London, with all the traffic and not many green spaces, that it's hard to get out there and exercise if you're blind or partially sighted. But there is actually help out there.
Oh, there is. There's so much resources out there. And the thing is, you could scour the internet, you could find loads of stuff. By bringing it all together onto one platform, what we have as a situation is that if you are blind or partially blind, you can go on there. But also, if you're fully able, you can also go on there because the message of wellness has been the same for decades. And I've been banging away at the drum now for 30 years this year to say to everyone, listen, you can all improve your life, your independence. You can feel so much better about yourself if you try and get those happy hormones to be released. I get asked all the while, Duncan, why are you always so happy? It's because you have a choice in life whether you're going to be happy or sad. I choose happiness every time. And no matter how bad things are, there's always an upside. And if we can help you to get to that upside where you now say to yourself, you know what, I have every reason to keep going. I have every reason to stop and focus on all the good things in my life and get up every day and count your blessings. You will feel good and you look as good as me.
I know. Dare I ask how old you are?
I am 70 right now.
70.
But the message of wellness is something I embrace. Listen, if you want motivation, go follow me on Instagram, Real Mr. Motivator, right now, because everything I post is about lifting you up. But on top of that, embrace what I've just said, which means that every single day, do something positive, move your body, and you'll start getting the benefits of movement.
Oh, you've inspired me, you've motivated me. Derek, wonderful to talk to you, and a fantastic thing you're doing here. Help is online. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Sally is out enjoying the sunshine, exercise, weather to exercise in, you might say. Sally, you're in Kew Gardens, aren't you?
I am, oh my goodness, I mean, warm. You might even say hot, Duncan. Actually, a tiny bit too hot for me. I have been already moaning quite a lot. And look at the beautiful laburnum. It's full of little bumblebees. I don't know if you can see that. And Gemma, if you just take the camera that way, you can see that this is Kew Palace. And this, of course, is where Queen Charlotte used to live with King George III. Now, in a moment, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the gardens here. Got some great facts for you. But first, let's talk to some lovely people we met today having fun in the sun at Kew.
All in all, and I'm not quite as well dressed all in black, unfortunately.
Oh, what a week to pick off work.
Things like Bodiam Castle and then today Kew Gardens.
Oh, happy days. You've hit the jackpot.
Pretty much everyone has told us is like, oh no, this is special. This is not normal. Don't expect this all the time. This is not normal.
And keep going with that sun cream. Very good.
Yep. Gotta hit the nose, gotta hit the T-zone.
Now, this garden was created by Queen Charlotte, and there's loads of medicinal things here because obviously they didn't have standard medicines that we have today. And if you touch things, they smell amazing. This rose, oh, it's just divine. And this is brilliant, right? This is called Artemisia. I've not heard of this before. Rub your fingers with it. Coca-Cola, I am not joking. Then come over here, we've got the rosemary. So this was apparently used in one of the tonics given to King George III. Well, this is my favourite. The good old globe artichoke. Listen to this. It stirreth up the lust of the body. I find, moreover, that the root is good against the rank smell of the armholes. nice, each to their own. Right, let's come over here and meet Richard, who is Director of Gardens. Richard, what would Queen Charlotte make of this today?
Well, I rather think she would have liked it. She'd see a garden full of plants blooming and smelling and doing what they do. I think she'd rather enjoy that.
And tell us about our crazy weather and how it's worked for your plants. We had obviously that wet spring, and then now talk about it and how they're doing.
So it was a soft spring for plants in general. So cool temperatures, a lot of rain, that really got them growing well. And then of course the warmth in the last couple of days has just brought the flowers out. So everything is starting to bloom right across the side. Everything from peonies to irises to wisteria. The rose garden's coming into bloom. It's a trails within the site with sort of invitations from artists and poets and environmentalists to think differently about nature and how we feel about it.
Well, good luck with that. You're going to have a really busy bank holiday weekend. And speaking of, we've looked in the crystal ball and it looks rather nice. Thankfully, the computers agree. Let's take a look.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a lovely day, and full marks to Mindy with sunrise now at 5 in the morning. She got up early for that photo. We've got another nice forecast for you, dry and fine and settled. We're nice and warm in the sunshine. Still quite cool nights, slightly chilly, fresh starts. And as our temperatures get up into the low 20s, they do put us about 4 degrees above average for this time of year, as you can see there in London. Right, let's take a look at what's going on tonight. So the sky is continuing to clear. If you've had cloud, we'll get that evening sunshine. But that does mean with the clearer skies overnight, the temperatures will drop away again, possibly down to low single figures in the countryside, a bit milder in our towns and cities, and some early cloud and mist around first thing. But as tomorrow gets going, that will burn off pretty quickly. Lovely blue skies and prolonged periods of sunshine again. Obviously some cloud bubbling up through the day, and it's a touch down tomorrow by a degree or so, particularly on the coast with that onshore breeze, but inland getting up to highs of 19 to 21. And again, into the evening, another lovely way to end the day. Sunset now at 9 o'clock. So a nice jolly evening with lots of sunshine, hopefully for you, and a beautiful outlook. Sunny spells at times, temperatures very pleasant, but still high UV. Let's take a little look at the pollen.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
So the downsides of this fine weather are that the pollen levels are moderate. That's grass pollen. It's just getting going. Might dip down a touch on Friday with a bit more of a breeze. That's it for now, though, from us all here on Costa del Kew. We'll see you later on. Cheerio.
Thank you, Sally. And that is it from us. The ITV Evening News is next with Mary. But for now, from all of us on the London team, thank you for watching and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.